A new report says the UK can withdraw, after all, from the European Convention on Human Rights without breaching the Good Friday Agreement, which was Blair's great triumph about bringing peace in Northern Ireland.
Well, it's often claimed by critics that leaving the ECHR would threaten that peace in Northern Ireland. Well, Dr. Conor from Policy Exchange is one of the report's authors, and he joins us now. Conor, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now, can you just remind us what is actually in the Good Friday Agreement in terms of legally? What does it consist of?
Absolutely. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. So the Good Friday Agreement was a landmark peace deal. It was agreed in April 1998 and, as Andrew mentioned, helped bring to a close over 30 years of political violence within Northern Ireland. What we call the Good Friday Agreement is actually made up of two separate but closely related agreements. There's the British-Irish Agreement, which is an international treaty agreed between Great Britain and Ireland, and there's a multi-party agreement, and that's agreed between the British and Irish governments and the main political parties in Northern Ireland, like Sinn Féin, the Ulster Unionist Party, the SDLP. There's a lot in the agreement. It covers a lot of issues, but the three main things the Good Friday Agreement settled were, first of all, they included an absolute commitment of all the major political parties to exclusively peaceful and democratic politics and a total renunciation of political violence. Second, the Good Friday Agreement sorted the constitutional status of Northern Ireland, and what was agreed was that the future of Northern Ireland, whether it remained within the Union or whether it joined a united Ireland, would be settled by democratic means, the majority of the people of Northern Ireland. And finally, the agreement set up new devolved institutions to exercise a measure of devolved power for the province. It created an assembly and an executive committee, and it put safeguards in place to make sure the powers given to that devolved assembly were not abused. So that's, in a nutshell, what the Good Friday Agreement is.
So why then are people saying that leaving the ECHR would destroy that agreement or compromise that agreement?
Well, there's two answers there, Miriam. The flippant one is that the Good Friday Agreement is a document that's more discussed than read. So it's quite a long document, and there's a lot of sort of technical legal provisions in it. But a more serious answer is that I think there's a misunderstanding about the role the European Convention plays within the Good Friday Agreement framework. It does have a role to play. Its role is to act as a safeguard for the new Northern Irish institutions, the new devolved institutions. The Good Friday Agreement envisions the European Convention being incorporated into Northern Irish law and being able to be enforced in Northern Irish courts and in British courts. That's what the Good Friday Agreement requires in respect of the ECHR. But it says nothing about the United Kingdom needing to remain within the international system of the Convention in perpetuity. The United Kingdom, or Ireland for that matter, neither of them waived their entitlement under the European Convention to denounce the treaty. So I think the misunderstanding comes from not reading closely enough what is actually provided for in the Good Friday Agreement.
But this has been one of the, people who say we must never leave the European Convention, this has been one of the central points they make again and again. If you do that, you surrender, potentially compromise the hard-won peace in Northern Ireland. How have they got it so wrong, or have you got it wrong?
I would say this is a matter where the case, no one has really made the case, Andrew, is what I would say. It's kind of taken for granted. It becomes received wisdom. But it is just a matter of looking at what was agreed. And to be very clear about this, there is a role for the European Convention. The Good Friday Agreement sees it as a very important safeguard, but it's very important to get precisely right what kind of safeguard it's meant to be. It's not meant to be a UK-wide safeguard that puts obligations on Westminster Parliament, Westminster Government. It's limited, it's localised to Northern Ireland, the devolved Assembly and the devolved institutions. So it does envisage a special status for Northern Ireland there, a special regime to account for its unique legacy of political violence. But it's about getting the nature of the safeguard correct, and people have exaggerated it. I think that's where the root of the problem is.
Very interesting.
Really is.
Conor from Policy Exchange, thank you so much.